Good morning, guys. I was tagged recently by John from Inbound to tell some funny Army stories. Anybody that knows me knows I don't tell stories very well, so bear with me. I think they're funny, but you know how that goes. So where do I start? Went in the Army right out of high school. My wife and I had already been together for 4 years at that point, I think. We started dating when we were 14, so my military, I wouldn't say career, I wasn't in for a lifetime, but my military revolved around getting married, starting a life. So she was with me quite a bit. I went to basic training, from there to AIT, Advanced Individual Training, from there to jump school, airborne training, and then from there I left and got married, and I brought my wife with me. So the first story it involves my wife too. She was there with me. We lived off base, got a little apartment, actually a trailer. We rented a trailer. But our first winter, I think we were 19 years old, we wanted a Christmas tree. And anybody who's lived on military pay knows you can't afford anything. So a friend of mine says, you know what, I know a back road onto the base. Let's go sneak a tree off the Army base. I was like, great idea, free tree, I'm all for that. So we drive to the base, and we sneak in on a back road, and it was a deserted back road. And we get up on the base, and they're doing maneuvers on the base. You can hear them. You can hear helicopters flying overhead, and they've got something going on down in the valley. We couldn't tell what it was. All we knew is they were making a lot of noise, and we figured, good, they won't be paying any attention to us. You know what I mean? It was like a ridge there, and they were down in the valley, and we came up the other side of the hill and found a bunch of pine trees. Now these pine trees were all 30, 40 feet tall. They were huge pine trees. So, obviously we can't cut one of those down. But my wife says, well, just top one. Go cut the top off of a tree, and we'll take that home and use it. But, great idea. Not a problem. So I climb up this tree. I'm probably 20 feet off the ground, 25 feet off the ground. And I got just this cheapy little hacksaw with a dull blade. I'm trying to cut through this tree. I'm having a hell of a time with it. And, the helicopters are flying overhead, and we hear the noise just over the other side of the hill. And this noise gets louder and louder and louder, so I'm sawing faster and faster. I said, yeah, they're doing something, they're getting close, and I got to paying attention to the tree. I wasn't paying attention to much of anything else around me, and next thing I know, my wife just starts screaming, Steve, 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 get out of the tree. I'm like, why? What's the matter? I turn around to look behind me, and I can't see anything. I got tree branches around me. But I can see the tops of the other trees just disappearing. All of a sudden, the trees are falling down. And I'm like, what the hell's going on, So then I finally get a good look, and here comes a whole row of tanks. They're coming up through the woods, and they're just mowing the trees down like they're not even there. And these trees are 20, 30, 40 feet tall, and they're just mowing them down. And here I am in the top of a tree. You know what I mean? My wife's hysterical on the ground, yelling and screaming and crying. I can't imagine what was running through her mind. She probably figured I wouldn't be there with her on her first Christmas, So, of course, I start climbing down the tree as quick as I can. I get to 15 feet off the ground, and I just jump out of the tree. And here's this row of tanks right in front of me. And they stop, and a hatch opens up, and a major sticks his head out of the tank, and he's obviously starts swearing at me. I'm not going to tell you what he said, but he wants to know what the hell we're doing there. Who are you? I mean, we were dressed in civilian clothes even, you know what I mean? So, I gave him my rank and the unit I was with, stuff like that. And he says, well, what are you doing? And I says, we're trying to get our Christmas tree. And he looks at me, he looks at my wife, who's hysterical at this point, you know what I mean? She's scared to death. And he just shakes his head. He just, get your damn tree and get the hell off the base. So we did. I climbed back up the tree, I topped it, and we took it home. We had a great little Christmas, but man, it scared the hell out of us. At the time it wasn't funny, but 30 years later we're laughing about it now. It's cold out here. Sorry about that. what was the temperature this morning? 9 degrees outside. A little chilly down here in the shop. I was going to do this outside, but too cold. Anyway, so to us, that's a funny story. You know what I mean? And what else? Anybody who's ever been to jump school knows they have a thing called the gig pit. And every morning at formation, they do inspection. They inspect your haircut, your uniform, inspect everything. And you don't pass inspection to the gig pit with you. Now the gig pit is, they run you through a shower, so they get you all wet. And then you got to roll around in the sand. You got to crawl through sand. You get sand everywhere. And now you got to work all day like that. You got to put your harnesses on, your parachute on. You got to, the sand gets everywhere, if you know what I'm saying. Very uncomfortable. But from jump school, I was going directly home to get married. And typically they want you to shave your head, or, you know, buzz cut, super short, you know what I mean? I didn't want to do that. I didn't want all my pictures to be of me with no hair. It sounds stupid and vain, I know, but so I refused to shave my head. I had a military haircut. It was perfectly up to military regulations, but they thought it was funny to put me in that gig pit every single day. For 3 weeks straight, I think it was. Every single day I got put in a gig pit. And at the time they didn't know it was because I was going home to get married that I refused to cut my hair. They thought I was just being an ass. So towards the end, he says, Kerwin, what's wrong with you? Just cut your hair. Go shave your head like everybody else. And I explained to the sergeant, I'm leaving here. I'm going home to get married. I don't want to get married with no hair. And, you know, he got a kick out of that. I didn't. You know, he put me in a gig pit anyway. He laughed a little bit harder every time I went in, you know. But, not so funny at the time, but it's funny now, you know. 30 years ago, you know what I mean? We can laugh about it now. What else? That was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Or that was at Fort Benning, Georgia. Then I went to Fort Campbell. That's where the whole tank thing happened. My wife and I spent a year and a half there. And I got shipped out to Korea. And my wife couldn't go with me. I was right up on the DMZ. So I had to send the family home. My wife and daughter went home. I went to Korea. But while I was there, our first trip out into the field, we were out a good month, I bet. And we're right up on the border, you know what I mean? And there's a river that runs through there. And you know, every morning, you know how it is when you're in the Army. You got all your morning routines. You get up in the morning, you go clean up, you go get breakfast. But one morning, we're all cleaning up, you know, we're shaving, brushing our teeth and whatnot. And two guys walk over to the river. And one young kid, a Korean kid actually, in Korea, where I was stationed, you share the barracks with the Korean Army. It was probably a 25 to 75% ratio. 25 of us were Korean soldiers. Good guys, great guys. You learn a lot from them. You know, they know the area, they know the language. They're there to help us with the language barriers, I think, more than anything. But anyway, this young Korean kid, I mean, he looked like he was about 12. He walks up to the river, and so this other guy walks up to the river. And the Korean kid bends over to start brushing his teeth right out of the river. The other guy bends over to take a piss in the river. And he's pissing in the river while this guy's brushing his teeth 3 feet down, and the bubbles are floating right past him, you know what I mean? And he's just brushing his teeth, not paying any attention. He's sticking his toothbrush in the bubbles and brushing his teeth. And of course that was a funny situation. Everybody got a laugh out of that one. Nice kid, but he's just naive and young, I guess. I don't know. But so then we go back to the base, the camp actually. They call them camps over there. We're at camp, and now the sergeant is just getting on this kid's case every single day. Young kid, you know, inexperienced. Every day he'd find something wrong with the kid's uniform. His boots weren't polished properly. His uniform wasn't neat. There was something every single day. He'd find something wrong with this poor kid, you know what I mean, and yell at him in front of everybody, you know what I mean. And he finally started getting the hang of it. His boots were looking good. His uniform was looking good. Sergeant's looking at him. He said, hey, you know, you're starting to look pretty good, you know. And then he gets up real close to him, and he's giving him his inspection, and he's looking at the kid's face, and he goes, you didn't shave. You didn't freaking shave. You know what I mean? And he starts yelling at the kid in front of everybody. And at this point, the kid has just had enough. You know what I mean? I've been getting yelled at every day for weeks. And finally the kid just blurts out, "I've never shaved. I don't even know how to shave." And obviously, you're in the military and you've never shaved. You don't even know how to shave. Absolutely hilarious. But, you know, so even the sergeant got a chuckle out of that. When he actually grabbed him and took him back to the barracks and showed him how to shave and made him shave every single day, even though the kid had never shaved in his life. You know, he got that little baby face to him, you know what I mean? But what are you going to do? You know, it's the way it is. What else? Something else funny happened over. Oh, we were in the mess hall. And they separate us by tables. They don't separate us, but they have, you know, row of tables, and you go sit. Typically, you sit with your friends, you know what I mean? A good friend of mine, a Korean guy, I don't know what his real name was. He went by Lee. Everybody called him Lee. Maybe it was his real name, I don't know. But it was a special day. We had steak, baked potatoes, I mean, a good meal. A nice meal, you know what I mean? So we're all sitting down. Oh, man, we got steak. That's great, you know. Here comes Lee. He's coming over, and he's got his jacket all bunched up, and he's holding something in his jacket. You know, we have no idea what it is. He sits down across the table from me, and he pulls out a jar, and he goes, you know, "Hey, anybody want some?" You know, "Well, what is it?" You know, "We don't know." He goes, "It's kimchi." And a few of the guys knew what kimchi was. No, no thank you. We don't want no part of it. You know, and he opened that jar, and he took that kimchi out, and he just dumped it on his beautiful steak. Cleared the whole table. That was the worst smelling foul odor I've ever smelled before in my life. So yeah, that poor guy cleared the table. Had the whole table to himself, but how he could eat that stuff, I don't know. No disrespect to any Korean guys that watch this. I know I have a few subs from Korea, but oh, I couldn't get past the smell. It was terrible. But yeah, a few funny Army stories. And like I said, I'm not a good storyteller, but there you go, John. A few funny Army stories for you. And now I should tag somebody myself. Well, there's a couple guys I want to tag. I can't decide which one, so I'm going to tag two. I want to tag Andy from Swagman Andy. And I want to tag Ralph, the Rhineland Redneck. So you guys check those out. One's Marines, one's Navy. I was Army. So yeah, we're covering some of the bases here. So like I said, you guys check out their tags. And I hope you enjoyed mine. And I'll talk to you later. We'll see you.